Hi everybody, Jake from Boatman UK here. I know I've done a couple of these videos already, but I know a lot of people probably won't have seen them, so I thought I'd make a fresh video going through the Actor GPS system. I'll be going through how to use it, the buttons on the remote, what they do, and also what exactly GPS is. So I'll cover that first. So I have done a recent video on the Actor Plus GPS, and again, I know some of you won't have seen that, so I'll be going through this again. So difference with GPS, what is GPS? GPS allows you to store locations. So if you set your boat out, you find a nice little spot that you want to return to, you can actually save that location on the remote, and it will allow you to return back to that exact same spot within 1 metre, just literally at the press of a button. A lot of people, when they're beginners and new to this, get a bit confused between sonar and GPS. Obviously, sonar is a totally different thing. So sonar is a feature finder. You have a transducer on the bottom of the boat that will allow you to read the bed of wherever you are using the boat. It will tell you the depth, it will tell you temperature, and it will show you all your features. And within a certain depth as well, it will also operate as a fish finder. But our sonar is a feature finder and not a fish finder. So that is the key difference. So as I say, GPS is to store locations and sonar is to find features. Obviously the Pro boats, it has both, but if you're looking for one or the other, just be sure obviously you specify exactly what you are looking for. So we'll get on to the actual use of the boat and showing you the remote in just a moment, but hopefully that covers off what exactly they do. Okay, so we've got the boat just in shot there, so I'm just going to bring the remote into view so you can see the display. So I'll cover the display first, if I just get this to focus. So we'll start from the top left. So your top left just there, that is your satellites. So 12 is the highest amount of satellites, and what that relates to is the actual GPS connectivity. So at 12 being maximum, that's the strongest GPS signal you're going to get, which means that your GPS is going to be as accurate as it can possibly be. I would recommend not to use the GPS anything below 6-7 satellites because it can be quite inaccurate. Normally you can take a little bit of time, it can take a couple of minutes sometimes in quite isolated areas to reach 12 satellites, but it's always well worth waiting, especially if you're looking to navigate to several spots. Wait until you get at least 6 or 7 satellites. The next one along, just there, that is your signal strength for the remote to the boat. So obviously you've got 500 meters of range, and at the moment, because the boat is quite close, as you can see just in shot, just in the background here, if I let that focus, obviously the signal strength is at maximum. Let's get the focus again. There we go. The middle symbol, P, means it's currently parked, it's not doing anything, and if I move it, you'll see it changes direction, so you can see as a reference point which direction the boat is, or rather your input on the remote and which direction you're going. And then to the right of that, you've got B and R. So B is for boats, that's your boat battery display, and R is the remote battery display. So you will need to keep an eye on these. It will beep at you and tell you when either one is low, but obviously needless to say, just keep an eye on it. And of course you will expect the B battery, the boat battery, to drop as you use the boat. Obviously on stationary at the moment, it will just remain idle like that, but under load you might see it drop. Don't worry about that, it's completely normal. Okay, so moving on the actual lower section of the screen here, we've got a number of numbers 1 through to 16. Those are your saved GPS locations. So as I mentioned, you can have up to 16 stored locations on this particular GPS model. This P here is a reference to the position. So you can see currently the little orange box is highlighted over the number 1, and you can cycle through using the directional button here to 2, 3, etc. And that will tell you if you had a save location, it will tell you how far away that specific point is. You can change it between meters and feet. The N just here stands for like navigation. It's like a navigation reference, so when you're heading from one point to another, it'll tell you how far you are between. That's very rarely used, to be honest with you. And then the H, which is currently in green, is your home point. So I currently have a home point saved, but I'll resave one in a moment to demonstrate and show you how to use that. And then your 2 on the right here are your hoppers, your centre hopper and your rear hopper. The N stands for no, which is a reference of when you actually use the GPS. You can change it to open to yes, but I'll go through that in a moment. I don't want to overcomplicate it too much right now. So we'll go to the basics now. We'll cover the buttons. So this button here, if you press and hold, just press that, just a single press, that's auto forward. So that'll engage auto forward for up to 1 minute. This one here, the flag, if you press it as single press, you'll see that changes between feet and meters. If you press and hold it, that will store a new home point. Obviously you can only have one home point, so I'm not going to do that just yet, but if you press and hold, that's home point. Left and right is to cycle through the menu for your GPS save locations. This here, this one, the little kite looking triangle, I don't know what you want to call it, that is to navigate to your spot. So if you're selected over a specific designated save point, you click that and it will come up the navigation menu, which again we'll go through in a moment. This teardrop here is to save a location, so when you're at a point and you like it and you're happy with that, you can store your location. This button, the little house, is to return to your home point. This one here isn't really used. This is like a back button, so when you're on the sub menu and you want to make a change, you press this one, that's to go back. If you press and hold it, you can adjust the yaw control, but you won't really need to ever do that. This is your light button, headlight on and off. That is your centre hopper, and that is your rear hopper, and of course then the on off switch. So not a lot to it, nice basic simple remote. So let's bring the boat a bit closer to us now. If I just get that to focus, there we go. So I'm going to bring it a bit closer into shot here. And before you do anything, before you use the satellite, before you use the GPS, you want to get to 12 satellites, and before you start sailing the boat around too much, first thing we want to do is calibrate the compass. Calibrate the compass, what we do is the button I mentioned for auto forward, this top left one here, if I just get this to focus again, there we go. You press and hold him, calibration. So you want to make sure you're in open water, out of the way of any obstacles, and that'll start going around in circles for 15 seconds as it learns the water you're on. I recommend to calibrate the compass every time you use the boat. You know, they do state in the instructions anytime you remove the battery or change swim, but I do it every time just so the GPS is as accurate as possible. So now that I've calibrated the compass, again I'm going to have to get this to focus, there we go. I'm going to save a home point, which is this button up here, even I just nearly made an error then. So this is your home point to save and store a home point. So let's just do it there so it's nice and easy to see. So press and hold him. It will beep to tell you, and obviously H is at 0, so we're now saved to our home point. So now we have a reference, we can have the boat sail home safely in case of any incident, and also when we go to obviously travel to a saved point, it will then return home if we want it to. So what we'll do now, we'll sail the boat out, and I'm just going to go to a point out of the way over here, and we're going to go through saving a location. Right, this will do just here, just out of the way a little bit. Let's say you found a gravel bar, or you got a sonar and you found a patch with no weed, or for whatever reason you just fancy saving a specific spot that seems to be fishing well. Let's go through the routine of how to do it and just how simple it is. So focus, there we go. Right, so teardrop button. If you press that, it'll say, are you sure? Do you want to save that point? To save it, obviously you hit it again. To go back, you press this button. Obviously in this case we want to save it, so yep, we're happy with that. So that's now stored point number 1. And again, as I say, you can cycle through, you can do this up to 16 times at several different locations. And you have a reference point, so obviously the P, as I mentioned at the top there, will tell you how far away you are from that specific position, which will kind of help you memorise exactly which spot is which. Otherwise, it's worth just keeping a mental note or writing them down if you're using several. So now that I've saved that spot, let's say I want to load up a rig, put it into the boat, and load up some bait. So I'm going to press the home button to bring him home. And as you get closer and approach, it will beep, and it'll also do a little, obviously the numbers will go down how far or how close it is to that specific point. So at this point, let's imagine we've obviously loaded the boat up and we're ready to sail and back out to that point number 1. To sail it back out to that point number 1, all you simply need to do is hit the navigation button, which is a little triangle here. And this is the sub menu. So this is quite an important menu. So NNN, just these 3 here, all mean no. Essentially what they are is your centre hopper, your rear hopper, and home. So what it's asking you is, do you want the centre hopper to open, do you want the rear hopper to open, and do you want it to return back home, which are all currently selected to no. Obviously in this case, I'm going to ask for them to do both, centre and rear. So I'm going to hit the hopper button there, hit the hopper button here, and then I'm also going to hit the home point. So that all changes to Y. If you don't want it to, you just simply press it again and it will go back to no. So currently we want them to do, we want it to go to the spot for us, we want it to open the hoppers, and then we want it to return home. And you can literally do that at the click of a button, hit navi, and navigate. It will go red, the box will, to show you that it's navigating to that point, and you'll notice the little triangle's also gone red, the end just there. And I can literally just put the remote down, not do anything with it, and it will go off to its own little spot that we saved. And you'll see as it gets closer, if I get that to focus, you'll see the distance to 1 metre. There we go. Beeping to say it's got there, so it will drift for the last metre. The hoppers are just opened. I can see the rear hopper doors just opened there. And now it's on its return back home. So whilst it's returning home, you'll now notice that the two little logos here, which were originally on N, are now default to Y. So what that means is basically when you go to your navigation submenu, it memorises your last input. So the last time I wanted it to navigate somewhere, I was telling it yes, I wanted it to open the hoppers. So that just saves you having to double check again, I guess. So it just tells you as a reference that you've got it saved when you navigate to a spot to open both hoppers. Again, you can disable that, but it will always memorise your most recent input. So I'll just bring this back into shot a little bit better. Obviously the hopper doors are currently open, but I'll just show there's also an animation on the screen so you know when the hoppers are opening. So if I just hit the centre hopper, you'll see that animation there changes. And if I open the rear hopper, again it animates to show that it's opened. Obviously it goes back to close, they have to close manually, but it just shows you that the hoppers have successfully opened if you're doing it at quite some range. I think that pretty much covers it. GPS is not that complicated. It takes a bit of getting your head around the remote and everything like that, but once you've done it a few times and you can actually utilise the capability of it, it really is a fantastic system. On the Actor you get, as I say, 16 stored locations, which is absolutely plenty, more than enough I think for most people. And I hope that pretty much covers everything that I think there is to discuss on the GPS on the Actor. If there's anything I've missed or anything you're unsure on, of course feel free to ask below. I hope this video helps. Thank you.